Hi, I got a tape I want to play.
The atmosphere and feel of live music is something many films and TV shows have tried to replicate, but can never quite get right. Whether they're trying to recreate a rave or a rock concert, something about the execution of these types of scenes comes across as rather fake. A concert is something that can only be properly experienced in person, which is why I have always found the concept of concert films very fascinating. Watching a recording of a performance still isn't anything like actually being at the event for yourself, yet somehow the best concert films manage to effectively give off the same energy and atmosphere that was present at the actual gig. Sometimes bleeding in a very loose narrative or some documentary elements to give that specific performance some needed context or to make the overall experience slightly more unique. With so many concert films having been released over the years, there are a lot of different avenues that you can go down, some brilliant and some not so good. To better understand this oddly specific and fascinating genre of film that rarely gets talked about, let's look at some varying examples from throughout the decades as we try to understand the art of the concert film. The earliest known example of a concert film dates all the way back to 1948 with a movie called Concert Magic. It's a very standard approach to a concert film that shows the live performance of musicians and comedians from the literal perspective of someone in the audience. Though it isn't anything mind-blowing when compared to later concert films, there is no denying how impressive this must have been for the time it was released, as well as also setting the very loose groundwork that future movies in this genre could expand on. However, it wasn't until the 50s and 60s when we'd start to get the type of concert films we know today, ones that follow a basic structure of simply showing you a band's set from start to finish. 1959's Jazz on a Summer Day and 1964's Tammy Show being some of the earliest known jazz and rock concert movies which fit this structure. Now, when it comes to concert films that fit the criteria of going for simplicity and try to immerse you in the experience of the music without actually being there yourself, there are many examples to choose from. You have the standard ones that are exactly what you expect and are more targeted at the pre-existing fans of the specific artist or band. A lot of the examples in this category tend to highlight an exact venue which the artist has played. This is when you get films like Foo Fighters live at Wembley Stadium, Rammstein Paris, Muse at Rome Olympic Stadium. The list of this category is endless. These types of concert films get released all the time and mostly go straight to DVD, with the occasional ones ending up with a single-day cinema release. With that being said, there are concert films that do stick to the basic template of here's a musician and their set list and that's it, that most people would agree transcend the straight-to-DVD made purely for the fans category. These are films that, despite what musical genre they dabble in, manage to appeal to a wide range of audiences purely down to how they're executed and whether they're offering something to the viewer that is a bit more than your typical concert film. Examples of these include Woodstock 3 Days of Peace and Music, Aretha Franklin's Amazing Grace, and Stop Making Sense by Talking Heads. Woodstock, a film showcasing the iconic 1969 music festival of the same name, lets the audience experience one of the greatest music festivals of all time, acting almost like a time capsule for an essential piece of music history that a lot of people today weren't alive to see in person. Amazing Grace, on the other hand, gives a new perspective to one of Aretha Franklin's most celebrated albums. Recorded live at the New Temple Missionary Baptist Church in Los Angeles in 1972, the footage filmed on that day wouldn't be edited and released to the public in the form of a feature-length film until 2018 due to legal and technical issues over the years, but that's enough for a video of its own. And then you have Stop Making Sense, which shows Talking Heads not just at the peak of their popularity, but also at the height of their abilities as musicians and performers. Commonly cited by many as the greatest concert film of all time, and quite rightfully so, this powerhouse of musical energy and passion is a masterclass of how to do a concert film, where each song in the setlist outdoes the previous. And this is no surprise, as the movie was helmed by Jonathan Demme, director of Silence of the Lambs. However, as previously mentioned, not all concert films stick to this basic approach. Some include documentary-style interviews, etc., amongst the concert footage to add greater meaning or context to the very concert you are seeing them perform. Two films that fit this category perfectly are Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones and Shut Up and Play the Hits by LCD Soundsystem. Gimme Shelter uses the interviews to emphasise the chaotic nature of being on tour with the Rolling Stones, as well as the complications that arose due to that specific gig. Shut Up and Play the Hits, on the other hand, acts as a touching calling card to LCD Soundsystem's career and legacy, as frontman James Murphy contemplates the decisions he's made regarding the band and how he prepares himself for what would become an epic 4-hour farewell concert for the band at Madison Square Gardens. The documentary approach of concert films isn't flawless though, as it can have its issues. Whereas Gimme Shelter and Shut Up and Play the Hits use that style to give a much needed purpose and meaning to the actual concert footage, there are some that tackle this approach and either lean too far to the documentary side of things, or fail to use that style effectively, ending up with something that just comes across more like a product or another piece of merchandise for the artist, rather than something meaningful or insightful. This is when you get films like Justin Bieber's Never Say Never or Katy Perry's Part of Me, but that's also something for another video. Now, besides the documentary angle, you also have the narrative-driven concert film, where the lines between regular films and concert films are deliberately blurred. But that being said, this style is a lot less common than the previous ones we've gone through, as most concert films tend to keep the general execution of it all fairly simple. Also, unless there is a narrative being carried over from a specific album or music video the artist has previously made, then it is a lot harder to think up and force a narrative into a concert film, a genre that typically doesn't require a narrative in the first place for it to work. Metallica's 2013 concert concept film Through the Never is one of the few narrative-driven concert films that comes to mind, as it goes out of its way to have half of the film focused on a protagonist, in this case one of the band's roadies, trying to get from point A to point B, whilst the other half of the film is footage of Metallica performing in Vancouver and Edmonton. The connection between the two isn't the strongest thing in the world, but it works for the sake of the film. And this category is also where you get things like Duran Duran Unstaged, a concert film that sees experimental filmmaker David Lynch using trippy visuals alongside the band's live performance to not necessarily tell a story of any kind, but more to heighten the experience of the music and emphasize a certain mood or feeling that can only be done through the medium of film. Experiencing a concert in person is one thing, and nothing is ever going to take away from that feeling, but seeing it through a different lens, quite literally in this sense, opens up a wider range of possibilities and approaches that act as extensions of the live performance rather than a limitation. Whether you're witnessing a band at the top of their game, experiencing a once-in-a-lifetime performance from one of the greatest singers of all time, or immersing yourself headfirst into a band's triumphant final blaze of glory, there are many reasons why concert films work so well at capturing a singular moment in time, one that holds significance in one way or another to that band or artist. I think the possibilities to what an artist can do and accomplish through the means of a concert film is limitless. For For decades now, they have been used to further express the music and feelings of the musician in some shape or form, and I feel as if the potential of what can be achieved through a concert film has only just scratched the surface and is something we're going to see evolve in the years to come. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read them and start a discussion of some kind. Remember to also follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd to keep up to date with everything I do. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye.